a while ago, I would have definitely said that I'm the monogamy girl. But now that I've been single for a really long time, I don't necessarily know if that would work for me. I hate using this word, but a lover. You know, there's been a couple of times where, you know, I finish and he doesn't. And I automatically get into the positioning of like, okay, well, let's get you done.
Oh, hey, Chatterboxx.
One thing we know for sure when it came to Melyssa Ford being on the Joe Budden Podcast, whenever conversations around cheating, relationships, monogamy, accountability, or what men and women should and should not tolerate in relationships came up, somehow it always turned into a debate, a battle of the sexes.
You can't steal somebody's husband. You can't steal somebody's husband. If he's devoted to his family and his wife, then that's where he's gonna stay. You don't love your wife and you're not devoted to your family. If like some famous chick can walk by, bat her eyelashes, and suddenly you're just like, oh duh. How is that not true?
All right, as the men in the room.
There's levels to you, like
Touching on me.
And a conversation on the episode had me thinking, I would love to see Shan Boodram and Jared Brady having this conversation on the couch with the fellas of the JBP, because I think it will get real interesting and maybe even pull some truths out of the fellas.
Mel, could you be in an open relationship at this point? Like if, now you're starting trouble. Like if Ish and his girl wanted you to join as the second girlfriend, would you be down?
I mean, what's good for the goose is good for the gander type thing.
I don't know what that means.
Meaning, like, if you're gonna go on the chicks, like, I'm gonna go get some extra peen. Are we good with that?
Yeah, bro, I'm finding one peen.
So recently, Melyssa Ford sat down with certified sexologist and relationship expert, author, and teacher on Netflix, Too Hot to Handle, Shan Boodram, who also has a master's in psychology and was in Mean Girls. Wasn't Joe Budden's song Fire in that one too? See, they already have a connection right there. Anywho, they had a pretty deep conversation about open relationships along with her husband, Jared Brady. They talked about ethical non-monogamy. Ooh, that's a mouthful. Whether monogamy is even natural, jealousy in relationships. And as I was sitting there listening, yeah, the fellas would absolutely lose their minds during this conversation.
If I'm out and somebody's giving me a vibe, I don't feel guilty for engaging in that.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you guys think that there's a difference between open relationship and ethical non-monogamy?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
I think actually, I don't really know. This is Shan's part of the questioning.
Well, that's the umbrella term.
Okay.
Right? So like queer is an umbrella term, and then you might identify as a queer lesbian or as queer and bisexual. So ethical non-monogamy is anybody who doesn't subscribe to monogamy, which would be one partner at a time or one partner for life. And so you can be open, you can be a swinger, you can be monogamish and ethically non-monogamous or polyamorous. We would best define our relationship as open only because we are hierarchical.
Some people are out here in open relationships, whether they like it or not. They got people up and down the block, around the corner, and in different area codes and zip codes. But I don't think that is what Shan is referring to. Now, the conversation over there is real chill and seems to be bringing out a different side of Melyssa Ford. I already know the Joe Budden universe has heard plenty of relationship conversations over the years. We've heard debates about cheating, double standards, whether men can stay faithful, whether women should tolerate certain things, and even the men. Melyssa Ford finding shoeboxes with tapes and how she felt all of it. This conversation was interesting because they weren't talking about cheating in the traditional sense.
Fundamentally, again, we started off as friends with benefits. So we were seeing other people. That was just the fabric of our relationship. When we got together, we had been honest, we had been open. That was the reason why we loved being together. So it wasn't logical to say, okay, so now that we're gonna commit ourselves to each other, let's change the very fabric that we enjoyed so much about our dynamic. Jared wasn't really engaging. I would have, and I've always had maybe a flirt buddy or people that I text or people that I send.
They were talking about removing monogamy completely from the equation. And I started wondering, where would everybody on the Joe Budden couch actually land on this? Because I can already hear Ish now.
The shit we learn about relationships, it comes from society. Society tells you what's appropriate in your relationship. You and the chick don't necessarily dictate in most relationships. Mm-hmm. Like, this is the first generation where they get into, yo, we can have open relationship. You know what I'm saying? Tell them don't f you too hard, but...
But as interesting as Shan and Jared's story was and their relationship dynamic, I had to rewind it back because Melyssa Ford casually revealed something. And I said, hold on, wait a minute.
I'm going to overshare right now.
Yes.
I hate using this word, but a lover. And
yay!
Ben had him. He's amazing in every way, shape, and form.
Is this the same lover you told me about?
Well,
Probably.
I'm trying to. It's on the podcast.
Okay.
On the podcast.
Probably. And, there's been a couple of times where, I finish and he doesn't. And I automatically get into the positioning of like, okay, well, let's get you done, because a lot of women feel like that's the end of sex. You're really just happy with my happiness. I said, my God, you're kind, you're compassionate, you're sweet, you're whimsical. He's whimsical, okay? And you really, the rules don't apply with you. Oh God, can we just plant a field of you? Because I know every single woman will want this kind of guy.
Well, it seems like time is telling a different story for Melyssa Ford, because not long ago, she was just on Shan's podcast talking about her love life and how women are discovering decentering men and even becoming cat ladies.
There's a penance for it, or you're gonna get the lonely cat lady labeled shit. Don't threaten me with a good time. I want a house full of fucking cats.
Or emus.
You know what I mean? But I think that women are really leaning into decentering men and realizing their worlds don't fall apart, that actually they become pretty fantastic. Men might actually be the accessory and not the centerpiece.
But in this one, Melyssa just casually dropped that she has had a lover for a while. And now I found that interesting for a few reasons. Number one, this entire conversation felt very different from the relationship conversations we used to hear when Melyssa was sitting over on the Joe Budden podcast.
I just have one question. How do you steal somebody's husband?
You can't.
That's what I'm saying.
Can't take a person that knows.
Okay.
Come on.
Can't take a person that doesn't already have a foot out the door. How do you steal somebody's husband?
As a
Don't even think about it.
I'm not talking about.
Okay, what?
Do you believe that? What you just said? The men in the room. Are we letting this rock?
Come on.
Okay, I have a question. Ish.
Yes, ma'am.
You're devoted to your... Is she your fiance?
No.
She going to be?
Oh, shit. Possibly.
Okay. So let's just say...
And two, it makes this entire monogamy conversation even more interesting, because now you're hearing Melyssa speak from what sounds like maybe a different experience, a different path she's chosen. Maybe, maybe not. And of course, I started thinking, I would want to see how this exact topic would go down on the Joe Budden podcast. So I am putting them on my JBP guest wish list. Everybody on those couches, I bet, would probably have a completely different take. They would start throwing each other under the bus and probably even naming different examples. Y'all know how they like to argue about things in the past. Now, they had this take in the past, and I'm wondering, after all these years being in relationships, if their opinions and thoughts would change on that.
I couldn't, personally.
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing no relationship. No.
I couldn't be in an open relationship with somebody that I cared about.
A lot of men want the one-way open relationship.
Mm-hmm. We run our cakes to eat it too.
Well, I hate that because what else do you do with cake?
What woman don't ask questions? They all ask questions. When
I'm not even talking about the not ask questions. A lot of cannot handle the thought of somebody else fucking
That's
girl.
a fact.
So even if he could sit here at the table and say, okay, cool, I gotta agree to this to keep you. In the back of his mind, every time you leave that house, you're going to get.
Maybe Ice is right, but Shan and Jared seem to be working through the different ebbs and flows of their relationship and keeping it open, or however they want to call it. I do think this was an interesting interview for Melyssa Ford to have them on as guests. And they go on to share a lot of stories. So go check out the interview on her Hot and Bothered podcast, including this one.
But when I do,
And then you're going to come home and tell him all about it, right?
I'm more curious about it than he is.
I would listen to it because I know it feeds her, but I'm not really that curious.
Although I went on a date a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And then I came back and Jared was pretend sleeping.
I wasn't pretend sleeping. I was actually sleeping.
Okay. And then he was trying to have small talk with me, like, oh, like, da-da-da-da. And then I'm like, I wasn't going to bring it up. And then eventually he's like, so like, yeah, like, how did your date go? And I was like, why didn't you lead with that? You know you wanted to start there.
She is very interesting, to say the least. Their dynamic is interesting, and I can see this playing out completely different on the JBP. Sitting on the couches, Ish and Joe will be making faces at each other. Mark will be throwing his little jokes in there, and maybe even adding Keno for a little razzle dazzle and as a wild card. And this episode could go completely different, especially after this episode. I think it caught most of us off guard.
Did jealousy ever play a role in any of your...
Of course.
It's a human trait.
Of course.
It's a human trait.
I kind of love it.
Okay, unpack that for me. You like to feel jealous when Jared goes off to the club and might catch a vibe with somebody else?
What do you think?
I think you do. I think jealousy is different than threaten, though.
Melyssa seems to be enjoying the lane that she's created for herself. Now, for me, if you know Melyssa on the podcast, but for me, this and some other things weren't necessarily believable, but we're going to ride with it. Hey, you like it. I love it. It's good to see her laughing and smiling. But this conversation did introduce a completely different perspective. Not cheating or lying or even sneaking around. And maybe that is the thrill of it for some people. But this conversation focused on intentionally building a relationship outside of traditional monogamy. Now, whether you agree with that or completely disagree, this seemed to be one of the more interesting conversations I've seen happening on the Hot and Bothered podcast with Melyssa Ford. And I want to know what you guys think, Chatterboxx fam. Do you believe monogamy is natural, or do you think society has conditioned people into believing relationships are only supposed to look one way? And could you personally ever be in an open relationship? And if they had this exact conversation on the Joe Budden podcast, who do you think would disagree the hardest? Joe, Ish, SPARKS, maybe even Ice? Let me know down below, and let's talk about it in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe. Share with a friend. And you can become a supporter if you enjoy rocking with yours truly, Chatterboxx. Until next time.